I want to welcome you to our webinar, The Art of Donor Stewardship, Turning One-Time Givers into Lifelong Champions. I'm Ron Haas. I'm the CEO of the Timothy Group, and I want to introduce my two colleagues joining us today. My partner, Rich Cummins, is the president of the Timothy Group. He brings over 25 years of nonprofit leadership and fundraising experience to the table. Rich has done just about everything in the nonprofit world. He's been a university vice president. He's led fundraising for rescue missions. He served as a global CEO and worked with countless organizations as a consultant. Along the way, he's helped organizations raise millions of dollars and build donor programs that actually last. As a certified fundraising executive, Rich specializes in working with faith-based organizations, helping them connect their fundraising with their mission in authentic ways. What Rich really cares about is helping ministries and nonprofits do what they're called to do and making sure they have the resources and strategy to make it happen. His approach blends solid fundraising know-how with genuine understanding of ministry culture and values. Thanks, Rich, for joining me here today.
Ron, I'm going to have to take you everywhere I go. There was my mom, number one, my wife, but Ron Haas, you know how to make an introduction. So
Right.
thank you. Excited to be here.
I'm a fan. Let's just say I'm a Rich fan. And I want to also welcome Linda Cunning, Dr. Linda Cunning. She is a senior consultant with the Timothy Group. Linda has spent over 30 years working with nonprofits, ministries, schools across the country, helping them figure out how to achieve their goals and grow their impact. She's the kind of consultant who can work with anyone from organizations serving communities in need to those working with more affluent populations. Linda brings the same heart for service to every client. Whether it's leadership development, strategic planning, fundraising, or building programs that actually work, Linda has helped hundreds of organizations build something sustainable and meaningful. Her passion is simple, helping organizations do what they do best and do it even better. So I'm really excited to have Linda here today. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm really excited to dive into this topic today.
This is great. So thanks everyone for coming to our webinar today. Over the next hour, 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to cover why donor retention is so critical. We're going to give you a systematic approach to stewardship, share some techniques that you can implement immediately so you can turn one-time donors into lifelong champions. So I want you to, there's a Q&A button. So if you have a question anytime during our session, you can pop it into that panel, and we will hopefully at the end, we're going to spend some time with questions and answers. If you want to say something in the chat, you can do that as well. So we want to just encourage you to be active participant in our webinar today. So let's start today with a poll. My first poll is this question: what's your organization's current donor retention rate? So why don't you vote on what you think it is? Is it less than 30%, 30 to 40, 41 to 50, 51 to 65, above 65, or you're unsure? So I'm going to take just a moment and let you vote on that. It's kind of fun. See everybody participating. Appreciate that. All right. This is good. All right. Just a couple more seconds. Nice. Okay. All right. I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to show the results. All right. So a lot of you don't know, which is fine. Sometimes you're not in that space to see the numbers and to make those kinds of connections. Some of you say 60 to 100. That's great. That's great. You can kind of see how it works for all the people that responded here. So I'm seeing that many are below 50%. And so that's kind of a critical question here. So that's why we're here. We want to talk about the retention crisis. So Rich, why don't you help us jump into the retention crisis we face?
Yeah, I'd love to. Retention is a huge issue, and you don't ever want your back door to be bigger than your front door, for instance. You don't want to lose people in mass. This slide here depicts it all. I really love this slide. We miss you. It actually captures what organizations should be saying to donors, but they usually aren't. So most nonprofits actually lose about 60 to 70% of their first-time donors. So think of it like this. If you bring in 100 new donors, that's only 30 or 40 that are going to give again, according to that statistic. We call it here at the Timothy Group, we call it the leaky bucket syndrome, where we work very hard to fill this bucket up with new donors, new donors, new donors. But there's a big hole at the bottom and you're losing them. They're flooding right out that bottom. So what's the issue? What's the root cause here? Well, really, it's no systematic stewardship after the first gift. So you bring them in, but you're not stewarding them well. So they might get a tax receipt, maybe a newsletter, and then crickets, silence until they ask. Donors can start to feel like ATMs at that point. You'll hear us talking about that a lot. You don't want your donors to feel like a wallet. You want them to feel like partners.
Right. So here's the economics of this. It costs 5 to 7 times more to acquire a donor than to retain a donor. So it is a donor's lifetime value is what you want to look at. So it can exceed $10,000 or more. So when you run the ROI on this, investing in stewardship really is a smarter financial decision, and it's the right thing to do.
That's great, Rich and Linda. So, Rich, walk us through the donor journey.
Yeah, so you're going to see on your screen now that there's this journey that donors are progressing through, these 4 stages. So when they first give, that's their first time giver. That's where they enter the journey, if you will. Then they become a repeat donor. They're giving multiple times. And if you're doing this well with stewardship, they're becoming consistent supporters where you can count on them, whether it's monthly, ongoing giving, or maybe they're giving multiple times during the year. And after they become a consistent donor, then you begin to look at who are your major donors, who has the greatest potential in that group to give at a higher level. And then there's the ultimate gift, and that's somebody that's going to put you in their will or make a bequest, and they become a legacy donor where they're giving as much as 10 times or more than their largest gift ever. So each of these transitions is going to require intentional cultivation. So you really got to work intentionally to cultivate these donors. So understanding this life cycle actually helps you create appropriate touch points at each and every one of these 4 stages, these 5 stages. So the key is recognizing that every donor has the potential to move through the stages, but it's not going to happen automatically. It requires intentionality and systematic stewardship. So we're going to go to our next slide now.
Right. Yep.
So this one, look at this image. This is great. So this is a person with arms outreached and stretched out, and it represents this critical moment where donors either stay connected or they're going to slip away. So we lose donors really in 4 key areas. So first of all, right after the initial gift, when they receive maybe a generic receipt, but they're not getting that personal acknowledgement, that personal touch to invite them to be a part of the team at your mission or your ministry. So the second one would be around 18 months. That's where they're beginning to wonder, did my gift even matter? Or does the organization even remember me? And then third, this one's interesting. It's during leadership transitions. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I've experienced this on both sides of it. When I was transitioning out of an organization or ministry, making sure that my donors were well informed about who's going to be working with them next, who's going to be stewarding the relationship. That's important. I've also had it happen where I've come into an organization and there wasn't a proper handoff. So you really want to make sure you don't have donors fall through the cracks because they're not being documented or transferred appropriately. So fourth, when donors receive multiple asks without stewardship in between, that's where they begin to feel like a wallet or an ATM and not partners in the mission of the organization. So these are your danger zones. If you get these right, retention will soar. But if you miss them, donors are going to walk away from you.
Yeah, so look at the ATM here, and you're going to hear this over and over. Our donors are special to us. They are not ATMs. So we don't want our donors to be ATMs. Let's talk about what motivates ongoing support. So donors continue giving when three things exist: personal connection and personal connection to your mission, and tangible evidence of their impact and meaningful recognition. So this is really important. It aligns with your values as an organization. So different donors have different motivations, as we all probably have experienced if you work with donors. Some care about legacy, so they want their name to live on. They want their, family heritage to have some sort of legacy. We also have others that just want the recognition. They just want in their community to have their recognition that they are part of the community. They're serving the community well through you as an organization. Some are problem solvers. Some of our donors just love to solve problems and they want to be part of that, and they love to fix specific issues. And then others just want to belong. They just want to feel like they're doing something meaningful with their life. So your job is to understand the motivations that drive each individual donor, and then you tailor that accordingly.
And it's interesting, Linda. So this is where we can really connect to the difference between transactional and relational fundraising. So transactional can even be thought of in a couple of ways. Subtractional, for instance, we've got a need here, you've got money, and I need to get your money. And so it's subtractional. Transactional is actually, there's a transaction here. It's even a give to get kind of a principle. Like if you give, I'm going to give you obviously a donor receipt and maybe recognition and some of these other things, but it becomes more of the wallet mentality. Now, relational or transformational fundraising, that's a whole different thing. That's where the organization and the beneficiary is being transformed by the love and the gift from the donor, but the donor is also being transformed along the way too, because the donor is a steward for all that God has given him or her, and now they're able to live that out. So remember, transactional is going to treat the donor like an ATM machine. Ask, receive, receipt, repeat. Really feels like wash, rinse, repeat, really a cycle here. There's no real relationship. But relational or transformational fundraising views donors as partners, where you're building genuine relationships that are based off of, shared purpose, mutual respect. And the focus is going to shift really from getting the gift to inviting them into the work. They're going to become partners rather than funding sources. And the more they give, they'll give even longer. They'll become advocates for your organization and for the mission that you serve.
That's really helpful. And Linda, why don't you give us a systematic approach to donor stewardship?
Yes, stewardship is not just a random act. It's not just, giving a gratitude here and there. It is planned and systematic, which is why we're calling it the systematic approach, as the slide is saying. So the first 48 hours are your golden time. This is when you send your tax receipt, and we already know that. This is immediately, we're doing what's right. But then you want to add some type of personal acknowledgement, maybe a 90-second call from a board member. And that's easy. Just ask your board member to do a simple call. I saw that you gave $250. I want to thank you for this. I just wanted you to know that your gift is providing meals to 3 different families, or whatever your service is. And then the board member says, do you have any questions? And I'm here, for that. And that's it. They don't have to do an ask. They don't have to do anything else. The organizations that implement this jump retention rate 20 to 30%. So this is so important. Beyond that, then you want a strategic touch points at 30, 60, and 90-day intervals. So at 30 days, what you want to do is do maybe an impact report, an update with photos. You might want to share stories, something like that. And then at 60 days, you want even a beneficiary story. So coming from the person that you've been serving, one of your success stories, this is when you're showing that you are changing lives. and it means a lot then to the donor that they are part of that. And then the 90-day mark, you want to do maybe an invitation beyond giving. So maybe coming for a tour, having a meeting with your if you're a development director, or if you have a development director, having a meeting, maybe a volunteer opportunity. This is when you reach out and say, is there something that we can connect you with here at the organization? So create that annual engagement calendar. This is mapping all of your touch points. You want to aim for about 7 to 10 touch points through a year. So it's a 1 to 7. So for every ask, you want 7 stewardship touches in a year. So in the next part here, I want to talk about the pyramid. So you see the pyramid on the right of your screen. So we also want to segment our donors. Really important to do. Not everyone needs to have the same attention. So that's why you segment, because wouldn't it be overwhelming if you had to do the same thing for everybody? So let's just give you an example here. For $1 to $250, you want to do like maybe an automated stewardship, a welcome series, maybe a newsletter, virtual events, those type of things. Then from $251 to just under $1,000, you want a handwritten note that everyone gets, maybe thank you calls from board staff. It just depends. And then in-person events, you're going to have those invites for these folks. These are great prospects. Then your $1,000 to around $5,000, your mid-level donors, you want to have a personal call, definitely from your development officer, maybe a VIP tour. You make something real special with your tour, a leadership briefings. So those are really great ways to starting to engage these mid-level donors. And then finally, your major donors, the $5,000 level and up, that could be a special meeting with the CEO. I actually used to do that with a CEO I worked with. We had lunches, so we would invite this group to a lunch with the CEO. We did customized reports just for these folks. And also, I think planning them to get involved in some way, some type of a special project for this group is really important for major donors. They love being on the inside. So these are all of the different touch points that you can have.
Yeah, thank you for that, Linda. And you know what? They're so critical. These touch points are critical. The pyramid's critical, where you actually are doing different things at different phases for different audiences. And I got to tell you, share a quick story with you. I was working with a rescue mission years ago, and we had a donor that was getting the newsletter, and they were giving, based off of direct mail. And so that was constant. And then all of a sudden, we got a major gift. I believe it was a $10,000 gift. And within a couple of months, we got another one. And that really signaled us, we better get on the ball and make a call to these folks. And so I drove out into the middle of nowhere. It was I won't say what town, but it was in the middle of somewhere in Ohio, and you never would have known this place was there. And so walked in the door and just had this amazing conversation, and God was in the moment. I prayed with the donor. Then the donor asked me something interesting. That donor said, if I was going to make a significant gift right now, what would you do with it? And so you should always be prepared for that question if it comes up. And we were actually in a silent phase of a capital campaign. And I said, well, we've launched a capital campaign, and there's several priorities here. And I talked about one priority that benefited the men's side of this rescue mission. And then I talked about a priority that benefited the women's side of this rescue mission. And the donor seemed very interested in both. And so we had a great time, and the donor said, I'm going to think about this and I'll be in touch. And so about a week later, we ended up getting a very significant 6-figure gift in the mail. It was a big gift, but it didn't suggest where that gift was supposed to go. So I called the donor up and I said, thank you. Your gift made such a difference. It's going to change lives forever. But quick question, is this for the men's side or the women's side? And the donor began to laugh. The donor said, you haven't gotten the second gift yet, I take it. And so this was a phenomenal gift, but it really happened through intentionality. It happened through the donor being moved, and God was really in that moment. So let's talk a little bit about technology and these personal touches. Hopefully you have a CRM, whether it's Virtuous or Bloomerang or Razor's Edge, no matter what it is. You're going to use that to track interactions and automate your routine communications. But layer in your handwritten notes and phone calls into that. Technology is not a substitution for personal touch, but it is a scaffold. It is help. It reinforces, it keeps you moving along. And so personal touch actually makes the donor feel valued, and technology is an organization tool to make it happen.
That's great stuff. Thanks for sharing your story. That's fun. It's always fun to see donors really lean into the projects and get excited about it because you've invested time and cultivated relationships. So let's jump into another poll. So my question now is, which stewardship touch point does your organization struggle with the most? So the 48 hours, the 60, 90, 30, 60, 90-day follow-up, and annual engagement calendar. Do you have a plan for your donors? Or you don't have a systematic approach yet? You can choose any of those. We'll leave the poll open for just a second or two and let you share. It's very helpful. All right, a little bit longer. Hey, I'm looking through the list of people. It's so fun to see people on the list. Ann Nagy from Olivet. Good to see you, Ann. Well, I can't see you, but I'm glad you're here. And so many others. It's so fun to see all our friends join us. All right, so let me close the poll. Good job. All right, ready? Are you done? Okay, here you go. All right, so these are the things you're struggling with. Certainly, maybe you don't have a systematic plan yet, and that's what most people shared here. And that's why we're here. We're trying to encourage you and helping you with what could be your next plan. So let's talk about, Rich, why don't we talk about the proven stewardship techniques?
Absolutely. So if you're looking at this slide now, I love these koala bears. I'm channeling my inner Aussie right now, but they actually capture what stewardship is all about. It's connection and it's relationship. And so now we're going to talk about 5 proven techniques for connection and relationship. First of all, meaningful acknowledgement beyond the tax receipt. Tax receipt, it's a no-brainer. It's something that has to happen, but it's not enough. Make sure you add handwritten notes. You can pick up the phone, do thank you calls. It makes a difference. Take a photo. We all have iPhones or whatever your phone is. You take a photo of their gift at work. And really, what this is it's called proof of performance. You want to make sure you're showing the donor where their gifts have gone and what impact they're having. Another way to do it is a video message. Grab your phone and grab a quick video message from one of the people that you serve, a beneficiary of the gift, and then send that off to your donor. We've got some different examples. We had one principal that used to text 30-second thank yous to each and every donor. And you know what the cost of that was? Zero. You know what the impact was? Amazing. Just an amazing result, an amazing connection every time that principal would send something out to his donors so that they could see firsthand proof of performance where their gift went. Second, impact reporting that actually resonates. So it's not enough to say we served 1,000 students, but think of it like this. You might want to say your $500 provided books for 12 students. Meet Maria. She's 8 and reading at grade level for the first time, and that's because of you. Thank you. You want to make the donor the hero, not the organization. That's key. I'm going to say it again. Make the donor the hero, not the organization. So third, cultivation activities. Here's where you can do behind the scene tours. You can do a lunch and learn, a small dinner with beneficiaries where you're bringing in people that you serve in those dinner settings so they can get to know your donors. Invite your donors to volunteer. I remember at that mission I was telling you about before, we had to paint one of the dormitories, and one of the most amazing opportunities I ever had was with a family of 7 that came in, and the husband and wife became dear friends. I ended up serving on the board of directors and still do with the husband, and I go to church with the husband and wife now, and they're going to become more than just donors if you invite them in to volunteer because they're going to give a piece of their heart. Next, invite them to be on advisory committees and give them insider updates. Really treat them like one of the team.
Yeah, and then number 4 is the personal outreach strategies. So obviously, Rich has just shared some of that, but I really need you to train your board members to be involved. And this is a great way to get them involved, is those thank you calls. Very simple, very easy. And when a donor hears from a board member, it makes them feel like, oh, okay, this is my gift was important enough for a board member to respond to me. So it's really good. The other things you can do are simple. If you're an organization that does have the birthdays of your donors, then you should be sending some birthday cards. Maybe it's an anniversary date of the first day that they gave to your organization. So you send a little anniversary card. Also, you can congratulate milestones. You should be cultivating these relationships. And so you may know what's going on. So within the donor's family. So you may want to celebrate those milestones.
5, the fifth one, you want to create moments of connection, meaningful opportunities. And one that pops to mind is we had a church that we know of that surprised donors at an actual dinner with missionaries that they've been funding for years. They just kind of brought them out and they had dinner with these folks that they've just seen videos from or Skyped with, but now they got to meet them in person. So create these meaningful moments. They'll actually forge emotional bonds. They don't have to be expensive. They just need to be thoughtful and genuine. They need to be authentic moments. So now we're going to go to the next slide. And so here, you got to remember, you can't just ask donors to double their gift. It doesn't work that way. You must earn that right through demonstrated impact and a deepened relationship. And so I'm going to talk to you about the progression now. So first of all, you want to demonstrate the impact clearly. Make sure donors know what they're giving to, why it matters, what the impact is. Then you want to invite them into a deeper engagement. You want to get to know them at a deeper level. Find out what they really care about, their passion points. And then you go in and make strategic asks. And I can't overstate this. You have to be an active listener. A lot of times we think that being in this world with donors has to be intense and pressure and sales oriented and all this kind of stuff. And if you're speaking more than you're listening, you're going to miss out on a lot of good stuff that you could have with that donor. And so here's something to consider. For a $500 donor, this is something you might say. Your gifts over the last 3 years have provided meals for 36 families. Become a cornerstone partner at the $1,000 level, and you'll be able to serve 72 families and join us and be a part of our leadership briefings.
Yeah, the next one would be multi-year pledges. These are powerful, and you don't have to think this just as at a capital level, because I think we do think of that, especially if we're in donor development. But think of it this way: if a donor can commit 3 to 5 years and becomes becomes a predictable revenue for you. So, for example, it reduces their fatigue if you said, okay, give me $10,000. I'm just making this up, and there's $10,000, and they're like, I can't do $10,000, but instead you offer, is there a way that you could do $3,000 over the next 5 years? Well, not only have you increased what you originally were going to ask, but it also lessens that fatigue for the donor. So it's just a really good way to look at giving in a different way. And then also the next one would be legacy giving conversations. That should be normalized. You should be doing this in your conversations. So you can share donor legacy stories and offer, planning resources. There's plenty out there that you could share with the supporter. And you could say something like, many supporters have included us in their estate plans to ensure that their values continue and continue to make a difference. Have you ever thought about legacy giving? And just start those conversations very simply.
So all of this is wrapped up into one bow here. It requires creating a culture of sustained giving. Retention prioritized equally through acquisition is important. You don't want to just Forget about acquisition's huge, so is retention. And then board modeling consistent giving. I can't tell you how important this is. In fact, another organization that I serve right now in a capital campaign, the CEO of that organization told me about a board member who said, I can't give a lot of money to you, but I actually sit on in an organization at an organizational level where I'm meeting with people all over the country that have extreme wealth. I'd love to introduce you to those people. Yeah, that's what we want here. And so getting your board to model consistent giving, and then to next one, introduce you to their network. So every staff member should understand their stewardship role. That's another key point. But I think the big thing here, the big win is making sure you have 100% giving by your board, and that's sacrificial. So it doesn't have to be everybody gives at a $10,000 level. You just want the board to be engaged, and then get them to introduce you to the people that they know. And then your staff, they have to understand what their role is as ambassadors to your organization.
Yeah, next slide. Now, this is really important as you see peer to peer. So the thing about peer-to-peer influence is it's personal and it's powerful. So I want to just take a moment here and talk about this. When donors feel valued, they become your marketers. So transform your donors into ambassadors. This is so great. You create opportunities for them to do this. So how are they telling their story about, why they got involved with you? How about at events, having them speak at events? How about in newsletters? You're always having some type of supporter sharing their story. So when donors articulate why they give, it deepens the commitment and it really does inspire others.
And quite frankly, Linda, it is a best practice in fundraising. So what do we have now? We have about 85 people in the room, and I would venture to say that most of us are professional fundraisers. That's probably why you're here today. But your donors, they aren't. And so when you walk in the door and you make an ask, they expect you to. They understand that you represent the organization, a great cause, but that carries a certain weight. Now, somebody that's on your board, for instance, or a donor, there, and if they actually help you in the process, that's a little bit different. That's a third party endorsement and a best practice in fundraising. So let's get them involved. And here's a few ways that you could get them involved. One might be personal campaigns. And leveraging social media is one way to do that. And an example is, instead of giving money to me for my birthday, would you consider making a donation to XYZ organization on my behalf? And so that's one way. Another one would be an honor or memorial giving campaign. And so you're actually inviting your donors to introduce you to their network and give on a memorial basis. Challenge grants, that's a great way. And I'm sure many of you are already doing that. That's where a donor will give, for instance, $10,000 if the community matches it. These are all great ways to encourage peer-to-peer fundraising from your donors.
Yeah, and so also remember to make referral programs. Make it easy, please. Make it easy for your people to be a peer-to-peer. So provide shareable stories that they can share. Offer them guest passes where they can invite somebody, and to do a tour, a VIP tour with them. Create a bring a friend, those type of initiatives. It's a great way to bring people into a peer-to-peer.
And remember, engage them beyond their checkbook. We don't want to just view donors as wallets. I've said it multiple times here today because I mean it. It's important. You want to invite them into meaningful opportunities, have them volunteer, have them serve on your committees, have them provide their professional expertise. The worst thing in the world you can do is just have them do I guess, mundane, rote types of things when they actually have skills that you could utilize. We have one client that created a professional network of donor experts, whether it was in IT or HR, marketing, even their attorney. And they wanted to always make sure that these folks were their go-tos when their organization or any other organization that needed somebody as a specialist in that area, they called on their donors. And I think that's a good way to go.
These are all great tips and advice. I really appreciate you, Rich and Linda. So now it's time for another poll. So my question is now, What is your biggest barrier to better donor stewardship? You've heard all of these ideas, but what's limiting you for implementing them? So, limited staff time, lack of systems, budget constraints, board leadership, don't know where to start. What are those things that you are thinking when you hear all of these great ideas? Yeah, thanks for jumping in. These are great responses. Appreciate that. Man, I see all these people that I know that I love that I want to just shake your hand and give you a big hug. Marty O'Gwen, God bless you, man. And see other people from North Greenville University. So much fun.
We have about 7 of them that signed up.
I know.
See you guys soon.
All right, here we go. Let me end the poll and share the results. So I think you pretty nailed it, right? Limited staff time. It's like we have so many great ideas, but there's just so many things in the day to do. And how can I really implement these things? And so this is a really important point. And so I think the next thing we need to talk about are just okay. So what are the pitfalls to avoid? Because my goodness, what else do we do?
Yeah, well, we want to avoid these pitfalls, that's for sure. This warning sign here says it all, basically. These mistakes actually can derail everything. And so here's the ones to avoid. Number one, over soliciting without stewardship. Remember that 1-to-7 ratio that Linda talked about earlier. For every ask, you need 7 stewardship touches. Most organizations have this backwards, and they're asking far too much with too few of quality stewardship interactions. The second one would be generic communication, where you're treating all donors as though they're the same. You know, donors can smell mail merge from a mile away. They can smell it, they can hear it, they can see it coming. So let's make these personalized. Another one, failing to track interactions, which leads to duplicate outreach or forgotten promises. This is going to destroy trust in a fast way. Another one, investing everything in acquisition while ignoring retention. This is the leaky bucket syndrome that we talked about earlier. Another one, board not modeling stewardship. You know what? If your board's not making thank you calls or they're not writing personal notes, why would your donors really give? And would they even feel valued? Get your board involved in meaningful ways. So avoid all of these, and you're ahead of most organizations. That's for sure.
Great. So Linda, give us some wins here.
Yeah, and right before I do that, I want to talk to my darlings, all of you that are on here. Dear ones, I know the struggle. I understand your struggle. Rich can say that. Ron can say that. We understand the struggle. When you put up on that poll that I just don't have the time, we understand. But you can have wins. So I want you to celebrate like this lady is doing right here. You can have this win. You can do this. So let's just give you some quick wins this week. Okay. So number one, we're going to implement that 48-hour thank you calls. You don't have to do it. You can have a board member. You could have a program director that would just help, just give them a few phone calls, spread the wealth out of the phone calls. If you're getting that many gifts right now, spread it out, but you can do this and implement those. And you don't have to start with just the smaller gifts. Maybe it's $250 and more gifts or something that is doable for you, but let's implement that. Number two, let's get your CEO, or if you're the CEO, can you write just some easy 10 notes to top donors? One time when I was leading, I actually had the students actually do a quick thank you note, and then I sent that out because I just didn't have time to write the notes. So think about that. Think about something creative, but get those handwritten notes out. It really does mean a lot. Number three, create welcome series for your donors. You should be using your CRM. If it's not being used, if it's just being used as a database, you're not using it right. Get in there and use those CRMs. Automate, automate, automate. And what you want to do is then have those sent out and set this up in any of your email platform, in your constant contact, however you're doing it. Just get those out. Number 4, schedule monthly stewardship reviews where staff report on relationship building activities. You really want to look at and see what's going on. And then number 5, train 5 at least your board members. I think everybody should be trained, but at least get 5 of them to do thank you calls. You may also have a development committee. Get the development committee, which sometimes has board members and outside people. Get that development committee doing those calls too. And this will really help you to move forward. These 5 actions this week, if you implement this, I'm just going to tell you, your retention rate will, you'll see it in 6 months, it'll be soaring up.
Thanks, Linda. That's so great. So now I'm going to do another poll because I want to test your response on what Linda just said. So what will you implement first? The 48-hour calls, the CEO handwritten notes, the welcome series, monthly stewardship reviews with your team, or training board members to make thank you calls? So
you can do it.
You can do. Here's your chance.
Oh, no.
Here's your chance. You can. Oh, this is great. People are jumping in.
Fantastic.
This is fun. All right. I don't know. Can they only choose one? Maybe. It's too bad. We want to choose 2 or 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here we go. One more. Here we go. We're going to end the poll and we're going to share it. Look at that. So look, 48-hour. That's good. That's a good one. And it's one of these things that makes a tremendous difference that you don't even realize. So I'm going to tell a story about my mom. My mom passed away. She was 94 years old, but she would give to radio programs. And she gave to one particular radio program where they would call her up. And Barb from the radio team would call her up and say, thank you for your gift. And she started this relationship with Barb. And it was really a fascinating thing for me to watch as a fundraiser. One night, the actual host, the preacher of the radio show, called up my mom. And my mom, he says, hi, this is Colin. And she couldn't believe that it was him. In fact, it took 10 minutes for him to convince her that it really was him. And she was just amazed that it would be like Charles Swindoll calling you on the phone, right? And so, I helped her with her giving. She had 16 ministries she gave to. Where do you think, my friends, was on her list? Some were moving down, some were moving up. His was staying steady and moving up because he called her and made it personal. It was fascinating. All right. Well, so let's do some key takeaways so we can talk about just the findings from this webinar. We want you to walk away with some things you can just say, this is key for me to learn. First of all, retention is 5 to 7 times more cost effective than acquisition. So you need to invest accordingly. This is an important task of fundraising. Keeping the donors you already have is more cost effective than finding new donors. The first 90 days after a gift are critical for establishing relationship patterns. Rich, talk a little bit more about that second gift.
Yeah, that second gift is crucial. And here's the thing, it is a best practice. So there's a high correlation between lifetime giving and a donor giving a second gift within the first 90 days. And so this is where your touch points really matter. So they gave the first gift, and now you want to make sure you're doing your impact reporting along with their receiving. Make sure you're thanking properly. But if you can encourage the donor to give a second gift within that 90-day window, you're likely to keep them for a lifetime.
The third thing, Rich just mentioned it, personalization, genuine relationship building beats automation alone. I love all the CRM and all of the ways that you can set up a path for your donors, and you're emailing this, you're giving them that newsletter, you're doing that. Those things are all great. We love them, but it's nothing like the personal touch. So you've got to make sure that you don't just automate yourself because your personal relationships matter more than the automation. Every donor deserves stewardship, so segment accordingly to allocate your resources. You just don't have enough time in the day to personally thank 250 people, but you can do it through email and notes and different ways to get those 7 touch points before you ask again. So that's important. And the last one, we need some accountability here. We need to challenge our team, challenge ourselves, give ourselves some goals, and then hold yourself to it so you can follow through and make it happen. It's not just good intentions that make this work, it's the actual execution of these strategies. So now I'm going to take a few minutes for question and answers. And we've got some in already, so that's really cool. But if you want to add to the questions, we're going to do this for about 5 minutes or so. And so if you want to be part of that, that'd be great. So here's a great one. Terrence asks, how do you get a passive board to get involved outside of just governance? So I don't know. That sounds like a rich one.
Well, I hear this often, especially if you're thinking in terms of how can you get the board to actually fundraise for you? Because, they really need to be there to direct and protect, and they need to help provide. And helping provide is helping be ambassadors and do this. But fundraising is really a scary word for donors. And so really, I think you should couch it or frame it in terms of stewardship, because donors, or I should say board members, are more than willing to thank all day long. And here's how you do it. You don't just blast the whole board with a bunch of names and say, go get them. What you do is you start with a couple of board members that really have a relational skill set and they're comfortable advocating for you. And then have them go and meet with some of your donors, have them call some of your donors and thank your donors and spend a little bit of time with them. Then invite them to come back to the board meeting and share their experience. They might say something like, the donor was so grateful that somebody called, sort of like Ron talking about his mom. Or maybe it only took 30 minutes and it wasn't a real heavy lift for me. Those kind of experiences will melt the resistance away from the others. And so I would say if you want to get them beyond governance and you want to get them advocating for you, find a couple that can model it and that can come back and show how easy it was, and then start with a small amount. Maybe give the rest of the board members 3 or 5 names, have them reach out and make calls thanking your donors. So stewardship, not fundraising, it's stewardship.
That's good. So someone asked that basically we're starting from ground zero. We never had a development department. So how do I implement these things if I don't have a development director, if I have a small staff? Linda, why don't you field that one?
Yes, I'm telling you, a systematic strategy is really what you need to do first. Just back the bus up just a little bit. And what you want to do then is to say, okay, what is my 48-hour, 30, 60, 90-day items that I can do? And when you figure out your strategy and what you can handle in the time that you have, because I'm sure there's other duties that you're doing, then it'll become just a routine for you. It'll start, but you have to start with a strategy. If you just, like I call it popcorning, if you're just popcorning, is that a word? Anyways, if you're just doing things here and there, then you lose the strategy and then you actually lose focus. So we want to really do a systematic strategy.
That's really good. Just a question here about our slides. We talked about doing a welcome series. Do either one of you want to chime in on that? A welcome series in the CRM, how you introduce a new donor to your ministry?
So, give it to me one more time, Ron. I'm a little bit foggy this morning and
Yeah. So what's a welcome series? Like a brand new donor,
gotcha.
what's the welcome series that we're going to give to them to introduce them further to the ministry?
Yeah, that's simple. So, and this is where you can have a video. I mentioned it earlier, a video of a beneficiary that received the gift. That might be part of your welcome series. You might send a personalized note from the CEO or leadership. That could be part of your welcome series. There's just a number of two or three different things that you can pair together and make it more systematic as we're talking before, but make use of video in particular. That's going to be huge. And again, if you have a very large donor base and you're bringing in a lot of new first time givers, there may not be a way to do that with your CEO, but that might be where you get the board involved or other volunteers involved to do a handwritten note. But yeah, there should be a welcome kit and then a next step and then a next step. And again, remember that 1 to 7 ratio. So before you make that next ask, let's get some stewardship points in there in between.
I have, if you don't mind, I want to add this too. I had one point, it was like um, a large, what's that called? Like a large packet that I would actually send. And it had an invitation. It was called Coffees and Kudos. So we called it that. And so it was an invite to a special coffee that we had monthly just for brand new first time donors. So they could come here, hear from the CEO, learn more. We also did where a third party, a board member or a community member that loved us, we would actually have a third party letter in that packet, and they would get that. They would also get our impact reports or your annual reports, however you do that in your organization. But that was in there, and it was just a great way to start with the first time givers, and that really also upped our ante as far as getting them to the second gift.
That's great. That's great. Becky asks us a question. Would you phone call and report to a donor who hasn't given in a while to make a touch point? Would you call and report to a donor that hasn't given in a while to make a touch point?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So your lie bunts and your side bunts and having I guess another systematic approach to that. So yeah, we miss you and here's what we've been up to.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really important. Shane says, should we set up a tiered system of the type? How to do the donor contacts based on their giving amount, or how do you decide what those different levels are? I think he's asking about how do you segment your donor base?
Yeah, that's good because what's important here is that if you are a huge budget, if you're a university and you have a huge budget, well, your major donors are different than say if you're a grassroots organization and you're very small and you have a small staff and you're getting along with a $300,000 budget. That's very different. And so you'll have to determine, looking at your kind of doing an analysis, looking at the giving trends, how people are giving at what levels, and then that will help you to determine which segmentation your donors need to be in.
Yeah, it could be all donors, no matter what size gift, get an automated stewardship welcome series, like we talked about here a little bit ago. $250 plus might get thank you call from a volunteer or board member. $1,000 plus might get an outreach from a staff member and a written stewardship plan that we've talked about. The big ones, 5,000 plus, might get the CEO or leadership involvement. They might get a phone call or a note from them. So as Linda is saying, it needs to be segmented, and you really need to think about what your human resources are that you can apply towards these efforts as well.
Right. Some of it's just your capacity. You can't do everything, so you got to choose the right strategies. Well, these are great. I wish we had a lot more time because to us, this has been a lot of fun, and I hope you've had an enjoyable time too. I want to please email us directly if you have any further questions. We'll try to follow up with everybody who had a question. We're going to send you the recording of this, and there's a free resource that we're going to offer you, the Biblical Mandate for Stewardship. So we've compiled email templates, letter templates, phone call scripts, special occasion communication in like a 30-page document. So this is a resource that we'd love to give to you. We're going to email out to you for the opportunity to fill out the survey, and you'll get this free. but that'll come out to you in the next couple of hours. Rich and Linda, what other things? Any final thoughts as we close?
Well, I'm just thankful that you all joined us. And here's just one more thing to think about. Donor stewardship, it's not that complicated, really isn't. Just treat people with gratitude and respect, genuine appreciation. Start with the basics, do them consistently, get into a rhythm with it, and I believe you're going to see the results.
Yeah, and I just remind you that you can do it. If you need a cheerleader, I'm your cheerleader. You can do this. I know it seems overwhelming sometimes, but it is so worth it. And it's a godly thing. This is a godly call for you to help somebody walk alongside your mission and vision.
That's great. Well, Rich and Linda, this has been fun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll be back next month with another exciting webinar. So God bless you, and keep on asking.